Give me a life, Abba. Give me a life, Abba. Give me a life, Abba. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. We'll go straight into the interview because of the Zoom time.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for joining. So let me begin. Well, good morning, listeners. This is Elaine Glover at Talking Faith. And this morning we're talking to Ronit. And we're going to talk about MDA in Israel because we've just been to Israel and had an amazing chat with Ronit about MDA. So the first question is, what is MDA for our listeners?
I'd be happy to tell you. MDA is Magen David Adom, Israel's National Emergency Medical Service. We're in charge of, first of all, arriving to the patients, helping them at home, getting them to the hospital. We're in charge of the blood services for the country, collecting, processing, and distributing the blood to all of the hospitals throughout Israel and also to the army, to the IDF. We are the largest volunteer organization in Israel with over 30,000 volunteers, which is over 90% of our personnel. And in addition to that, we're part of the ICRC, which is part of the Red Cross, giving humanitarian and medical aid at locations of disaster throughout the world.
And also, am I right to say that you are a people of all faiths and you treat people of every faith, nationality? You've got no sort of preference to one. You are totally neutral to do the job that you do.
Absolutely. We believe in the sanctity of life. And Magen David Adom is really the microcosmos of Israel. In Magen David Adom, we have Christians, Jews, Muslims, Druze, people of all beliefs working together, treating whichever patients need our help, no matter where they're from, no matter what their belief is. We just believe in the sanctity of life.
And also, um, you work alongside the Palestinian Red Crescent, don't you?
Yes, we do. We have a very good cooperation with them. We have had for years, um, assisting them and them assisting us. They reach places that are dangerous for us to go into, areas that are Palestinian that we're not allowed to enter. They will bring the patients out to us. And on the other hand, we will be in touch with them if they have patients that they wanted to take to the hospitals, but their situation is more critical than they expected, then they will be in touch with us for us to evacuate the patients. It's a very good cooperation we have together with them.
And also, I'd like to ask you, how did you get involved with MDA?
Well, actually, in Israel, it is mandatory for every 10th grader to volunteer, to do some sort of volunteering project throughout their year of 10th grade. And a lot of 10th graders, the best thing that people want to do is to volunteer in Magen David Adom. I was lucky to be one of the people who was able to. I started volunteering in Magen David Adom when I was 15 years old and became an employee as soon as I could when I finished my national service. I joined Magen David Adom. I did my national service not in Magen David Adom, but as soon as I could come back, I joined Magen David Adom and became an employee, and I've been working with MADA working since 2001.
Wow. Because MDA, you aren't given any money by the government, are you?
That's right. We're not funded by the government. The Magen David Adom law was made in 1950, making us the national EMS, the National Emergency Medical Service, but saying that we are not funded by the government. We are very lucky to have many, many, many good friends around the world who donate. If you come to Israel, you'll be able to see every ambulance, every Magen David Adom building and room has the name of someone who donated it. And that way we are able to continue working thanks to the donations.
I think that will help you as well, won't it, with the fact that you are neutral and you're not going to be controlled by the government. So you're more able to do what you want to do successfully.
Exactly. I definitely believe that that's one of the reasons. Being neutral is very important, especially during such political times.
Mm.
Then just being able to really understand that the most important thing is really the sanctity of life, no matter who is there, no matter who needs help, no matter what we can do to help, we'll be there and we will help them.
I mean, really, when it was the 7th of October 23, that must have been an incredibly stressful time. How did you find that yourself?
October 7th, just like everyone in the country and in Magen David Adom, was a day that was not expected. I could tell you my story from October 7th from the beginning. I was home asleep with my two daughters, who were back then 9 and 12 years old. And I live in Jerusalem. So a bit before 8 o'clock, a friend of mine called and said, "How are you asleep? The country's on fire."
Mm.
And I had no idea what he was talking about. And I was kind of still groggy waking up. And he said, "Get up. You're going to be called in soon." Last time I was called in on, out of the blue was during the second Intifada. And I said, "Okay, thank you," and hung up thinking that he had kind of lost it. But I was very lucky that he called because a few minutes later, there was a red alert siren in Jerusalem. And I woke up my daughters and I told them we have to go to the inner room that we have in our house because we don't have a safe room. I carried my 9-year-old in. My 12-year-old came in carrying the dog, both of them crying and scared. And then I get a WhatsApp message from my boss in the dispatch center saying, "Everyone come now." And I called her and I said, "I'm coming with my daughters. Is that okay?" And she said, "Yes, just come." So I got them into the car as fast as possible. And where I live, it's around a 10-minute drive, even less on a Shabbat, Saturday morning, when
Mm.
it's also high holidays. It's less than a 10-minute drive to the station, to the Jerusalem station. And during those 10 minutes, there were 3 red alert sirens. Each time we had to stop the car on the side of the road. My girls lying face down on the ground and me lying on top of them. And my 9-year-old saying, "But mommy, who's going to cover your head?" And all I could
Good.
say to it's so sweet.
Yes.
And all I could say to her is, as long as you're safe, I'll be okay. And then we finally got to the station
Mm,
and I brought the girls down to the dispatch center, which luckily is a bomb shelter, safe from any biochemical warfare. So I knew that they would be safe in the kitchen area of the dispatch center. And I walk in there. And as soon as I walk in, everyone says, be prepared. It's nothing you've ever dealt with before. And again, I think to myself, yeah, sure, whatever. They don't know what I've dealt with.
mm,
Everything's okay. Little did I know. The second phone call that I received, looking all around, seeing the chaos, not understanding this chaotic situation that, I mean, never seen. It's been a very long time, actually, never seen a situation like that before in the dispatch center. And I was there during mass casualty attacks and many, many different events back during the Second Intifada. And just you see the chaos, and all of a sudden there is a red alert siren while I'm there. So I look at the man in charge of the shift and I tell him I'm going to call everyone to the bomb shelter, and he says yes, please do. So I go on the loudspeaker and I call everyone down, and as I hang up, I understand that whatever this is, now I know it's war. Back then I didn't know. I'm bringing it to my daughters who
mm,
are in the bomb shelter. And it was just so chaotic. And then I started answering calls. The second call I received was, hi, Ronit. This is Amit from Barry. What's up? When will you be here? And just like many people who are hearing us now might not know who she is, I had no idea who she was. Turns out I asked her to tell me what's going on there. Well, I looked on the computer to see exactly what she already told us, because we can see on our system what is going on. And she said, well, I'm your paramedic and I'm still in the dental clinic on Kibbutz Be'eri. I have gunshot victims here. A couple of them are dead. The other three are in different states. And when will you
mm,
be here? And I was still trying to grasp what she was telling me. So I asked her to look out the window and to tell me what she sees. And she said, I see a lot of terrorists and a lot of shooting. And I asked her, do you see any citizens? She said, yeah, but they're all lying dead. So when will you be here? Just like that, changing it back. And I asked her to please wait for a second while I asked my boss, because it seemed like this doesn't make any sense. And I turned back to her a minute later and I told her, Amit, I am really sorry. You're one of ours, so I can tell it to you as it is. I don't know when we'll be there. We're trying our hardest, but you're in the middle of a war zone. And anyone who tries to get near the kibbutz doesn't manage to get in. Continue doing the good job, and we'll get there as soon as we can.
mm.
And her voice completely changed, and she said, I understand. Thank you, and hung up the call. Now, as a dispatcher, this is just one call out of 13 hours that I was there. I
Mm.
remember only 10 calls just because somehow my subconscious is trying to keep me safe or something. And each of those 10 calls that I remember, from what I know, everyone died. Some of them on the line with me, some of them not on the line with me. Some of them were angry, some of them were begging for help, some of them were apologizing that they're disturbing while we're so busy. But each and every call was nothing that I've dealt with before that. As a
Mm.
dispatcher, we're used to getting the call, getting the patient's problem, getting the location, and sending the ambulance, being able to say the ambulance is on its way. On October 7th, we could never say the ambulance is on its way. That link in the chain broke. And for me, on that day, I felt like a failure because I couldn't do my job no matter how hard I tried.
So, really, in some situations, people can train you, but this was something completely out of the blue, unexpected, wasn't it?
Exactly. We're all in the dispatch center. We're all either medics or paramedics. We all have medical training. We all know how to explain to people on the other line how to treat the patients until we arrive. It's stuff that we know. We know how to receive locations of people who don't know how to say where they are, like we received so much on October 7th. And
Mm.
after it's helped the IDF, I'm sorry to say, but find dead bodies of people who sent us their locations days before. So all of that we know how to do. But what we had to deal with on that day was something that we never had to before. We
And are many
also
of you struggling with PS? Is it PST, BSD?
PTSD,
Yes.
PTSD. That's a lot of us are struggling with PTSD. Something that helps us very much is peers. I mean, the fact that we're all we all know that we're in it together, that we're not alone, that this is something that not only us as Mada people, but also all of Israel
Mm,
we're a state in trauma right now. We're a state dealing with trauma, and we're a state, and each one of us has to with it on the personal level, on the family level. My daughters are still also dealing with the trauma that they had that day.
mm.
Everyone's dealing with it.
And I know obviously you can't play the audio, but can you explain to the listeners the two audios that we heard when we were listening to what MDA was about? Because I think it really brings about the horror of that
Uh,
day.
Absolutely. Yeah, there were many, many horrific calls that day. The two calls that I played for you were, first of all, to explain, the dispatch was instructed to do anything to help the patients on the other line, to go completely against everything that we were taught. And we were told, for instance, to do conference calls between patients and their families if they ask to speak to their families, which is
Yeah.
something that we're not supposed to do on a daily, during routine. And one of my colleagues received a call from a young man named Guy who asked for a conference call with his father. In the beginning, she didn't understand what's going on. And then she understood exactly what's going on. She heard the shooting in the background and she connected his father to the line. And the call with the father was the father trying to understand from Guy when he was called into the army, because this was already in the middle of the morning when
Yeah.
everyone understood that there was a bad situation. And Guy trying to tell him as fast as possible, please remember that I love you. Remind my mother that I love her also. And you can hear the shooting in the background throughout the conversation. You hear a guy going silent because hears the terrorists nearby him. You
Mm.
can hear the father begging to understand where he is and continuing to try and understand when he was sent into the army, until the guy finally managed to tell him, I'm not in the army. I went to a party last night. And right now I'm in a field between these two areas. And the whole time the father just keeps on trying to understand what's going on. And Guy keeps on trying to tell his father, I love you. Tell my mother I love her also. And then all of a sudden the line goes silent. And that was the moment that he was shot dead. And that's how that phone call
Wow.
ended.
It must have been really difficult for the person who was dealing with that conference call, because it makes me upset listening to it. But there was another one, wasn't there, with a little boy who was sick?
Yes. The one with the little boy was a few of us who received calls from him, also a friend of mine that I'll tell you about afterwards. But this was a phone call. We very often called back the people who had already called us because we were so many dispatchers who came in. So we wanted to make sure what's going on with the patients that already called us to see how they're doing. And here a dispatch called, and a 9-year-old boy answered the phone. And he asks the boy where he is and who's with him. This is a 9-year-old boy who closed himself in a closet together with his 6-year-old sister. And the dispatcher asks him, is anyone else there with you? And the boy answers, now, no. So he asks the boy, are their parents at home with you? Were their parents at home with you? And the boy says, yes, there were. And where are the parents now?
Mhm.
And then the boy explains that a terrorist came into the house and shot his mother. And as he went to tell his father that mom was shot in the living room, the father, who was holding his little 3-year-old sister, was also shot. And then he says, so now we're just the two of us. And this boy is so calm with such composure throughout the call, just
Wow.
saying just answering the calls and answering the questions. And the dispatcher asks him, are you injured? And he says, no. And he keeps on asking him questions and explaining to him that now he is the man of the house. He's very, very proud of him that he is so collected, that he is being so sensible about the whole thing. He wants to remind him that if he needs anything, he should dial 101, which is the ambulance number. And the boy says, oh, yeah, right, 101. And he just keeps on telling the boy to stay strong. And it actually, sometime during that day, I don't know if it was before or after this call, someone sitting right next to me received a call from the boy calling us. And she's around my age. She's also a mother. And she kept on trying to understand if the blood on his sister in the closet with him is her blood or the mother's blood who's lying dead in the living room. And my friend stayed on the line with them for a very long time, trying to help them stay calm, trying to help them figure out what to do. And when she hung up the call, she felt that she needed a break. It was
Mm.
such a difficult call for someone who is also a mother to speak to a child who's her son's age, who is locked in the closet with his sister, who thinks that his 3-year-old sister is dead. So she hung up and she asked for a break, and someone replaced her, and she stepped out for to the kitchen area, and she started crying and shouting about what she heard and about the terrible call, and that everyone kept on shushing her, asking her to be quiet, and she didn't understand why until she looked over her shoulder where they were pointing, and she saw my daughters there.
Mm.
They heard everything. So she came to me and she apologized, and someone replaced me so I could go out to my daughters. And when I went out to them to the kitchen, my 9-year-old was watching a TV show on the iPad, trying to stay very out of it. But my 12-year-old was very, very, very concentrated crocheting. So I asked her how she's doing, and she said, I'm okay. I asked her to look me in the eye, and she didn't agree to. So I sat her on my lap. And as I sat her on my lap, she started sobbing and saying, Mom, is this true? Everything that I heard, that there are terrorists all over the country and that there are children involved and that they're shooting, and that she got into this tiz just saying everything
Mm.
that she heard. And I hugged her and I told her that I'm so proud of her that she's letting herself feel these feelings. And I'm sorry, but she knows I won't lie to her. And everything she heard is true. And it's terrifying. And it makes us so sad and so angry and so helpless and so hopeless. And every negative feeling that she's feeling is absolutely right. But I
Mm.
asked her to please just remember one thing, that no matter what, I, as her mother, will do everything in my ability to keep her and her little sister safe. Just like I brought them here to the dispatch center today, where their bodies are safe. I know that their souls aren't very safe right now, but we'll continue working on that afterwards. I promise that no matter what happens after this, I will continue doing everything in my ability to keep them both safe. And
Yes.
my sweet, sweet 12-year-old gave me a kiss on the cheek, said, I know, mommy, I love you. Now go back to work. Because it was amazing. It's like the Magen David Adom gets into the blood also of the family. We're all
Yes.
one big family, and they understand that the way to help is to let their mother help. And I went back in and I told them if they want, they can come to me and they will receive a hug. They need to be prepared that they might hear difficult things. And I went back in. And each of them came in at a different time and heard very difficult calls. My
Mm.
12-year-old, when she came in, she stood at the door and asked her if she's sure, and she said yes, she just wants a hug. And then the guy sitting right next to me got a phone call from a building that was just had a direct hit from a missile, and he shouted, did you say both his arms and his legs are amputated? And my 12-year-old waved from the door saying, I love you, ma, and ran back out. And then my 9-year-old came in to receive a hug, while I was in the middle of a conversation that first I received from this woman, who wasn't near the area of the attack, who was standing next to her pregnant sister, saying that um, her brother-in-law was at the festival, at the Nova Festival,
Mm.
and they haven't heard from him in a while. If I can just call him to make sure that everything's okay. And I saw we already had a call open from him. I called him, and as he picks up the phone, my 9-year-old came in and he sounds very, very faint on the line. And I say to him, how are you doing? He said, not good. Do you see anyone there you know? No, nothing. No one at all. I could hear all the shooting and the Arabic around him. And I asked him if he's injured. He said, yeah, I have something in my legs, but I can't look down. I'm only looking forward. I can't. I'm only looking forward. I said, but I can explain to you how to treat your injuries. He said, I can't. I said, okay. If you can only look forward, I want for you to continue looking forward. Think of your wife, think of your unborn child, and how you do everything in your ability to survive to see them again. And this grown man started sobbing, and very within a few seconds, he faded away. And I'm pretty sure that that was the moment that he died. As I hang up the phone with him, my daughter is right next to me, looking at the computer, and the sweet girl says to me, Mommy, you wrote twice that he's gonna faint, which is her way of saying, I understand, give me a hug so I can get out of here. It was just it
It's the
was
way the
so
children do these things, isn't it? It's
exactly.
how do you cope with all this yourself? Because I mean, I think I'd probably end up being very tearful. I suppose if you're trained, but how do you deal with it? And also, how do you deal with it if you have to out through all that and you have somebody from the other side, Gaza or Hamas, and you have to deal with them? How how do you cope with it?
Well, first of all, it's kind of, I don't know if it's healthy or not, but I very much, when I'm at work, usually I just disconnect the feeling,
Yeah.
disconnect the emotion. I try my hardest to be as robotic as I can, very empathetic to the callers, very everything, but leaving my own personal emotions out of it so that I'll be able to continue being as professional as possible. So that's how I do it. Me personally, each person has their own way of doing it. I will be very compassionate, very empathetic to whoever I'm speaking to, but I'll try to keep my personal emotions out of it so that I'll be able to continue. On the
Yes. How could our listeners help you? Because I know that you do a fantastic work and you go beyond your calling actually. So how could we help you?
Well, first of all, I want to answer about treating the Hamas terrorists or
Yes.
anyone else. We as believers in the sanctity of life, we look at the patient as a body that needs to be treated and not their beliefs.
Mm.
I told you a story, I think, when we were there about one of our paramedics who was injured in a terrorist attack in a supermarket next to Jerusalem. And the terrorist was shot, was injured also. And our paramedic, who was injured very badly in his arm, treated the terrorist until the ambulance arrived. And when the ambulance arrived, he told the ambulance, "You need to take this man first before you take me because he is more serious than I am." And that's really how we work. We look at the condition of the patient and not
Mm.
at their beliefs.
That's amazing. And well, I think our NHS ambulance service do the same. And although we do have a lot of terrible situations, I think in Israel you have far more diverse, well, not serious, but it is serious. But uh, I think me and my listeners would like to say thank you to you, Ronit, and also to your staff because without you, I think Israel would be in a terrible place because of your values, the way that you serve, the way that you put your emotions to one side. So thank you. But time is running short now, so I really like to know how we could actually help you because I think that way we feel like we're contributing to the work that you do.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the most important thing to me personally is now that you've heard this part of October 7th firsthand, please just tell our story. I mean, we have the story is much, much more than what we had time for
Yes.
now. But the one of the things is the most difficult for me to deal with is the people who don't believe in it, which I cannot understand. No, it didn't really happen. You made it up. No, it happened. And whoever hears of this, it's really important to me personally to continue sharing it. I mean, I know it's still very fresh, but it feels like all of these deniers, we need to somehow cancel them out, sort of thing. So that's the first thing. And second of all, in England, there is actually a Friends of Magen David Adom organization called MDA UK. They have their own website also, and they can be reached in many different ways. MDA UK dot I think org.uk, but I'll look it up in a second. Um, and through them, there are many ways to help Magen David Adom, whether it is taking part in fundraisers or taking part in different events that they do. So that is a way to help very much.
And also, before I go, you've also had quite a few of your MDA volunteers and workers who've also been killed, haven't you? I saw one on
Yes.
Facebook the other day, and so we need to be very mindful about your losses.
Yes, we do. We had four of our personnel who were killed on October 7th as Magen David Adom personnel. And on October 7th, and since then we have over 30, I think closer to 40 Magen David Adom people who were killed in the IDF, mostly
Yes.
as medical people in the IDF treating patients there and getting killed while doing their job.
I don't know. To be honest, I just want to praise all of you because I don't know how you can continue with all this going on, but we're very glad that you do. Well, thank you, Ronit, and I'd like to perhaps have another radio interview, a bit more detailed, so that we can hear what really happened on that day for those doubters, because when you know something's happened and people are more or less saying that you've lied, it must be incredibly, incredibly frustrating and annoying.
It definitely is, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. And God bless you, and God bless you from our